The Blue Jackets need to win 20 of their last 32 games to finish above 500. It's unlikely, but not impossible, and we're going to talk about that today on Locked On Blue Jackets.
You're Locked On Blue Jackets, your daily podcast on the Columbus Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am, as always, your host, Jay Foster, here to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly about your favorite team and mine, the Columbus Blue Jackets. Before we get started, I want to thank everyone for making this your first listen of the day every single day. We are free and available on all podcast platforms, on YouTube, and on Sirius XM. I also want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. Download the Sleeper app. Use promo code Locked On NHL to go up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. So we've got a bunch to talk about today. Blue Jackets currently on their All-Star break. Boone Jenner did pretty well in his first ever All-Star appearance up in Toronto, and the Cleveland Monsters acquitted themselves very well in the AHL All-Star game up in San Jose. But instead of that, I want to kind of talk about what the Blue Jackets need to do in the second half of the season, what the goals are, what the predictions are. And then, there's a couple of things. What are we going to do without Adam Fantilli? And there are a bunch of players that are on pace for career highs, which is fun. So I thought I would look at those as well. Let's start off with the second half goals / predictions of the season for the Blue Jackets. And it's not a super bright outlook. I went through and I looked at the remaining schedule and I kind of picked out, okay, how many games are they playing against teams that are below them in the standings or close to below them in the standings? And the Blue Jackets need to win 20 games out of the last 32 to finish 500. I looked at it, and if I'm being generous, they play, of those 32 games, 22 of them are against teams that are either in a playoff spot or close to in a playoff spot. That's not ideal. The Blue Jackets have played a lot of kind of the worst teams in the Eastern Conference. They've still got 2 games to play against the Sharks. They've got a game against the Ducks. They've got a couple of games against the Habs. 1 game against the Habs, I think. A couple of games against the Senators. And a game against the Blackhawks. And that's about it. They've got a couple of games against some very, very good teams still to play. And I haven't looked up what their strength of schedule is, because annoyingly, they had a really tough schedule for the first half of the season, and then it seems like the schedule has only gotten tougher in the second half of the season. So I'm not super optimistic about the Blue Jackets finishing above 500, but where could they finish? And honestly, my guess is they finish in that kind of 4 to 6 range. Obviously, there's some moving parts to be dealt with. What happens at the trade deadline when they sell off, most of the expiring contracts and people with pulses. Adam Fantilli is out until the end of March, basically, so he'll be back for the last 6 or 7 games of the season. Patrick Laine going to be unavailable probably for the rest of the season. Does Elvis get traded? Does Boone Jenner get traded? There's a lot of moving pieces here, but the team is not going to get better for the second half of the season. Arguably, they will get worse, and that's not ideal for a bunch of reasons. My prediction is that they finish with the 5th best odds for Celebrini, and that they might move up a spot in the draft lottery. Unlikely, but I believe if they finish 5th in the standings, they have a chance to either go 1st or 2nd, and then 5th, 6th, or 7th, depending on how the lottery shakes out and whether people above them in the standings get bumped down or what happens there. But the Blue Jackets will either be drafting, if they finish fifth, they will be drafting first, second, fifth, sixth, or seventh. Not third or fourth, because again, of how the draft lottery works. It's not great odds. If I go over to Tankathon real quickly, it will tell me what the actual numbers are. Right now, they have the fourth best odds, so they have a 9.5% chance of getting first overall. They have, if they finish fifth, they will have an 8.5% chance of getting first overall, which is going to be Macklin Celebrini. If they manage to drop all the way down again, they finished second last season, so they had a 13.5% chance. If they finish first, or like dead last in the league, where Chicago currently is, they will have a 25% chance of picking first overall. So, like, again, I'm not discounting the fact that the wheels are going to fully fall off and that the Blue Jackets are going to fail miserably at the second. It's not even the second half of the season. They're like well into the second half of the season. They've got 32 games left. They could conceivably only win 7 or 8 of the remaining games. Like, that's a quarter of them, and I wouldn't be shocked by that. So we'll see. It's going to be a rough end to the season, I think. On the flip side, I genuinely wouldn't put it past the Blue Jackets to do what they normally do in terms of they haven't done it for a couple of seasons now, but they like to go on a heater kind of halfway through March and win like 8 of their last 12 games or whatever to like jump up a couple of spots in the standing. So like I wouldn't put it past them to do that. They did that, I think, the Werenski draft. And I think they did it with the Dubois draft as well. So 2015 and 2016. They went on those like mini heaters to basically out of spite, I think, to try and ruin everyone else's playoff chances, but it kind of backfired a little bit because it bumped them way down the lottery rankings. So we'll see. In terms of like some player predictions, I'm looking at what the stats are right now, and the Blue Jackets could have a couple of 20-goal scorers on their roster by the end of the season. Marchenko currently has 15. We're going to talk about Marchenko in a little bit, but it's going to be interesting. I think it's going to be the Blue Jackets could have a handful of players that are kind of in that range. Shenikov is also on pace for 25 goals. Boone sitting at 13 at the minute. I don't know that he'll hit. He could hit 20 actually. 7 goals in his last 32 games, very doable. And Dmitry Voronkov, if he gets 8 goals in his last 32 games as well. Again, very doable. That's a goal every 4 games, I think. So the Blue Jackets could conceivably have 4 20-goal scorers, which is really fun because last season they had, I think, 1. Okay, no, I lied. They had 4 last season. But 2 of them were 21-goal scorers, and we'll see. Like I said, I'm not super enthusiastic about how the Blue Jackets are going to finish the season, but they could finish with a handful of guys that are kind of hovering around that 20-goal mark. They could have more guys with 25 goals. I know 2 guys are on pace for 25. Another guy is on pace for, I think, 23, 24. So it could get a little interesting. And I think, again, we're going to talk about some of these guys in a minute here. So I don't want to get like too deep into the numbers. But there are a couple of guys that are on like a real hot streak right now and kind of had a slow start to the season and have picked up. It's a case of whether they go cold or whether they continue this hot streak, or what their kind of baseline is. Is the hot streak who they are, or is the cold streak who they are? And like goal scorers are streaky anyway, so like it could really go either way. But it's gonna get interesting down the stretch. I just hope that it's a little bit more fun than it normally is. Like, let's win a bunch of like 4-3, or let's lose a bunch of like 4-3, 5-4 games. Like, let's score a bunch of goals at least, because that's more fun, I would feel bad for the goaltending. I don't know what's going to happen with the goaltending, but that's kind of where I'm at right now. Is I would like to see more offense from the Blue Jackets, because the defense, I think, the defense is going to need to be fixed in the offseason, but the offense, I think, can be fixed. Not fixed, but I think the offense can continue to develop this season. So that's kind of what I'm looking at in the set for the second half for the Blue Jackets. However, they're missing one of their best, possibly their best forward this season in Adam Fantilli. And we're going to talk about what the Blue Jackets are going to do without Adam Fantilli in a second here on Locked On Blue Jackets. First, I'm going to tell you guys about FanDuel because the Super Bowl is coming up. And happy Super Bowl if you celebrate. From FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. If you're like me, Super Bowl Sunday is about grabbing my favorite snacks, quite frankly. And this year, I might place a couple of bets. And if I do, I'm going to do that at FanDuel. They've got a ton of ways for you to end the season with a W or 2 or 3. And not only can you bet on who's going to win Super Bowl 58, but FanDuel also has bets of which players are going to score a touchdown, how many points are going to be scored, and so much more. I currently am on the let's have the 49ers win the Super Bowl because I think that will be more fun and it'll make my father-in-law happy and that'll make me happy. So new customers, join today. You're going to get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet $5 or more wins. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to sign up. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official partner of the NFL, and also us, the Locked On Podcast Network. Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And we're talking about Adam Fantilli, who it was announced just before the All-Star break started. He's going to miss the next 8 weeks thanks to a cut that he suffered in the Seattle Kraken game, which is not the best news. It's not what I was hoping for. It was, I thought maybe he'll miss a couple of games, he'll get back to Columbus, and a week to kind of heal the cut. It looks like it maybe sliced into the muscle a little bit more. The good news is that they've avoided the Achilles, because if you slice through the Achilles, that's extremely bad. We've seen players like Erik Karlsson, I think, ruptured his Achilles tendon or got his Achilles tendon sliced or something. He damaged his Achilles tendon and it fully took him 2 years to recover. So I'm glad that they've avoided that. It does suck that Adam Fantilli is going to be missing for the next 8 weeks because, again, that's most of the rest of the season. I think they have 7 games in April, 6 or 7 games, and those are the ones that he's going to be playing in if he gets back, on schedule. So not great news. Without Fantilli, the center depth is fine, but it's kind of on par with where it was last season. So Jenner is probably going to sit in that 1C spot because they seem to think he is a top line center instead of a top 6 winger / middle 6 winger. Jenner is a better winger than a center, and I'm going to stand by that, and I'm going to keep saying that. And the fact that they kind of, as soon as he came back into the lineup, bumped Fantilli to the wing for a bunch of reasons about it gives him a chance to see the game better, and he makes mistakes at center, and he makes less of them at wing, which is categorically untrue. But anyway, we're not getting into a debate of why Fantilli is on the wing because it's irrelevant for the next 8 weeks. Cole Sillinger, who I think has really kind of started to thrive as, again, I don't think he's a top line center, but a very solid middle 6 center. Dmitry Voronkov, very good third line center, and Kuraly is a fine fourth line center. So, unfortunately, the Blue Jackets, again, are kind of back where they were last season, which was they have a bunch of good middle 6 centers, but no kind of real top end pieces. And they don't really have the wingers to support that because Gaudreau he's picked it up a little bit. He's got, I think, 32 points in 50 games this season. So, nowhere near what I think a lot of people thought he was going to get. So he's kind of underperforming, I guess, in that respect. They refuse to play Kent Johnson more than about 14 minutes a night for some reason. Chinikov continues to thrive. Marchenko continues to thrive. But Laine is going to be missing all season. But my assumption is that he's done for the season anyway. He's in the player assistance program. Obviously, we wish him the best, and we don't want him to rush back. But he's going to be missing for the foreseeable future. So there's another kind of top 6 winger that the Blue Jackets are down by. So where is if you don't have the centers, then you have to have the wingers to support that. And they don't really have the wingers to support this level of center depth right now. And that's kind of why I think the Blue Jackets are going to struggle in the second half of the season. I think there are some guys that are going to continue to succeed. I think Chidakov is one of those guys. I think Sillinger is one of those guys. Like, I like the Sillinger, Chidakov, Gaudreau line is not great defensively, but they are creating offense. And frankly, I'll take it at this point in the season. I will take offense over defense because the defense, like I said, it can't be fixed in the season. Interested to see what they do in the trade deadline, whether Andrew Peeke goes somewhere, whether Provorov goes somewhere, Bean, Boquist. There's a bunch of names that are out there for like potential moving pieces for the Blue Jackets on D. But I was really impressed by the forward depth at the beginning of the season. And now to kind of look at it here, I'm like, oh, well, this might as well happen, etc. Not thrilled about it, but it is what it is. I think it's going to be a long 8 weeks. And I'm really, like, I'm disappointed for Fantilli because, again, he was having a very solid rookie season. He had 27 points in, I think, 49 games. He only missed he only missed that one game against St. Louis. So he had 27 points in 49 games, was still behind Bedard for the Calder race, but again was kind of really picking it up right up until they bumped him to the wing and he stopped doing anything in terms of getting on the score sheet. He would have been on pace for 45 points if he'd played all 82 games, 20 goals, 25 assists, and that wouldn't have been the record, which I believe is 48 or 49 points, but I'm really disappointed for him and for the team because I think the Blue Jackets haven't had was Pierre-Luc Dubois the last great rookie season? Like, I think Ken Johnson had a good rookie season. I think Cole Sillinger had a good rookie season, but like Pierre-Luc Dubois set records. And obviously that didn't work out well, but Adam Fantilli had a chance to, I think, have a better rookie season than Pierre-Luc Dubois, and I'm kind of bummed that he's not going to get a chance to do that. However, there are a bunch of players who are either already have career highs, which is great, or they're chasing those career highs this season, which is, again, for a team that's had a lot of underperformance, having guys that have good individual seasons, I think is going to be really great in the long run. So we're going to talk about who some of those guys are in just a second here on Locked On Blue Jackets. First, I want to tell you guys about Sleeper because we're over halfway through the season, and I don't think I need to talk about what the team's performance is like in terms of highs and lows, because let's be honest, it's mostly lows. Regardless of that, you could win big by playing Daily Fantasy Hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. They're our number one choice for daily fantasy sports, and especially daily fantasy hockey, because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily contests. All you have to do is pick whether guys like McDavid, Crosby, McKinnon, Matthews are going to record more or less than their sleeper projections for things like goals, assists, saves, plus minus, and more in any given game. To win 100 times your money, all you need to do is correctly predict the outcome of 8 player stats. You heard me right, Blue Jackets fans. Correctly predict 8 player stats, and you're going to win 100 times your money. If you put $5 down, you're going to win $500 if you get those 8 player stats right, which is pretty cool. Start paying attention, nail your picks so you can start winning big. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL, you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and locational availability. Okay, let's finish off by looking at a couple of career highs that the Blue Jackets have already had / are kind of on pace for. So let's start at the top. Kirill Marchenko last season had 21 goals and 4 assists. So a high of 25 points. He is almost already past that. Actually, he might be. I think he's on that. He has 25 points this season, 15 goals, 10 assists, and he's on pace for 25 goals and 17 assists, which is 17 points more than his career high, which is really great. He's really kind of grown as a player. I think last season he was a lot of fun. He was a great goal scorer, kind of one-dimensional, and you can see that obviously, he joked at the start of the season about how he's going to be a playmaker this season, and you can he's obviously still primarily a goal scorer, but you can see he's really rounded out that game and become just a really great hockey player. Just a ton of fun to watch, has a sky-high ceiling, and it's been really fun to watch him kind of figure that out this season. And, he's had a lot of fun playing with, Voronkov, playing with Gaudreau, playing with Fantilli. He's been kind of up and down the lineup. He had a healthy scratch early in the season, and I think since then he's kind of I think he responded really well to it, which I am annoyed about, but it's not the end of the world if a player gets healthy scratched and then responds to that, like, that's awesome. Do I think the healthy scratch was necessary in the first place? No, to put it bluntly. But hey, it seems to have worked. Another Russian, Igor Chinikov, has already smashed his career high. His previous career high was 14 points because he's had, a bit of a learning curve to hit the NHL. I think he only played about 40 games in his rookie season, played 30 games last season, has kind of been up and down between the Monsters and the Blue Jackets, got injured, and now seems to have figured it out. And again, you're seeing a guy who you can see where Yamo and the scouting staff was coming from with his draft, because he's on pace for 25 goals, 14 assists, previous high. 25 goals, 18 assists, excuse me. Previous high, 14 points. He's already got 20-something points. I've lost the scoring. He's got 24 points right now. So, he's already beat his career high by 10, and he's on a real hot streak at the minute. So I could see that number, like, climbing and climbing as he continues to put up a ton of points. Again, really kind of thriving on that line with Sillinger and Gaudreau, especially offensively. I would love it if someone on that line could play a little bit more defensively, and I think Sillinger is the guy to do that, but I think that line is sacrificing defense for the sake of offense sometimes, which, hey, why not? The season's lost. You might as well have fun and score goals. Speaking of Sillinger, he's chasing his career high. He had 31 points in his rookie season. Obviously, last season was disappointing. He's on pace for 33 points currently. He would have, I think, 13 goals in there, and his high is 16 goals. But if he beats his career high, that would be great, especially considering, what a low point last season was. It looks like he's really kind of rebounded in a way that's really fun. And again, he's a guy that I think has continued to grow. Had kind of a slowish start to the season, has figured it out a little bit more recently, is again playing well in the top six. I still don't think he's a number one center, but if you can have him as that second line, or depending on who the Blue Jackets draft this season in the draft, a third line center even, then it really feels like that's a win for me. The final forward I want to talk about is Texier. He's got 16 points right now. He started hot, cooled down, is on kind of a hot streak again, has back-to-back shorthanded goals, which is really fun. His career high is 20 points, so he's not quite there yet, but he is on pace for 26 points, which I believe will be 13 goals and 13 assists. So again, these young guys are taking steps, and that's kind of, I think, what you have to focus on at this point in the season. All of these guys are probably going to finish with career highs and will continue to grow and jump. Kent Johnson would be on this list, but he is, I believe, currently on pace for just under his career high, which career high. It feels weird to say career high when he has played one season and a little bit. He got, I think, 8 games in the season he signed his ELC. So he had 40 points in his rookie season. He's currently on pace for 29, but he'll have played over 10 games fewer because he went down to the Monsters for a little bit. And again, I think he had a couple of healthy scratches. And also, Pascal Vincent doesn't seem to want to play him for more than 14 minutes a night. So, he should be on this list. He's not. I don't necessarily think he's underperforming. I would be interested to see what his points per game is on the season, because I think it's probably higher than many other players. He's currently well, I don't mean points per game. I mean points per 60, which the NHL website does not show me. But what I will do is I will look that up, and we'll talk about that maybe in tomorrow's episode or the day after. I want to finish off this episode by talking about Gabranson, who kind of at the start of the season, we kind of joked, like, I want to see a career high from Gabranson this season. He's playing less minutes, which should allow him to be more effective. We're never going to look at him as an offensive guy, but it would be great if you could get a little bit more offense from him. Last season, he had, I think, not his worst season offensively, but he wasn't great. He had 13 points last season. He's already on pace for above that. He's got 14 points this season. He scored 1 goal in 70 games, and he already has I think he has 5 goals so far this season. So again, on pace for a career high in basically all metrics. His career high right now is 17 points, and he's currently on pace for 24 points, I believe it is. His goal total right now is he's got okay, so he's only got 3 goals all this season. I thought he had more than that, but I stand by that he's going to hit career highs in a lot of things. He has slowed down since the beginning of the season. He had a really, really hot start to the season. He scored I think he scored those 3 goals in like the first 20 games of the season or something, which was again really funny. He slowed down a little bit since then, but I still think he's going to finish strong. And again, he needs, I think, 4 points total to hit his career high, and he's got 32 games in which to do that. So here's hoping he hits a career high, because it's, I don't know, I think it's fun when guys hit career highs, especially if their career high is like, especially if they're like, he's 32, I think, and so he's probably in his, I think, 11th pro season. So to hit a career high at the age of 32, I think would be a lot of fun. And that's all I've got for today. Tomorrow, we're going to do another prospect profile. I think we're going to do Caden Lindstrom of the WHL. So shout out to, I think, Ben in the comments, who's been really excited about this player. I'm also really excited about this player, so we'll talk about him, how he could fit in with this team. Thank you for listening to today's episode. Thank you for making it maybe not your first listen, because it's, I believe, almost 8 p.m. over there as of the time of recording this, but I appreciate you guys for listening. And continuing to make us your first listen. If you want to find me on Twitter, you can follow me at _Jacob Foster, JAKOBFORSTER. You can find the show at LO_Blue Jacket. If you have comments, questions, criticisms, you can email me at lockedonbluejackets@gmail.com. And thank you once again for listening. Until tomorrow, make sure you stay locked on.